Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Higher Caliber. I'm sitting here with Jared and our friend, actually, relative, Matthew Morland.
Hello.
What up?
Everybody, welcome Matt to the show. Matt is, I don't know what your title is, but you're part of Morland Heating and Air, family HVAC business, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm a part owner.
Part owner. Perfect.
But yeah, so we're a heating and air conditioning company in and around Dayton, Ohio. It's pretty old, 35-ish years, something like that. I don't know that the first couple of years were quite legal. I don't know that Uncle Sam was involved in the first couple of years. So, but we call it like 1984, 1985, something like that.
Cool. Very cool. Very cool. So always been in your family?
Yeah. So my dad started it kind of just to make some extra money, I think. So he worked at the airport and he worked for another guy in a neighboring city on the weekends.
Doing HVAC stuff?
HVAC, yeah. So okay. I guess nobody else would know. We are in Southwest Ohio right now, Southeast Ohio. And he grew up right here in this area, at least. And everybody around here at that time used oil. And when he moved to Dayton to work at the airport, there was a few oil furnaces and nobody knew how to work on them. So he worked for a lot of guys subbing that kind of stuff out. So I think it was kind of an accident that he started it and it kind of grew, it went from Jerry's Weekend Heating and Air Conditioning to something a little bigger over time.
How did your dad get into it?
So he worked for a guy here and they did kind of the local smaller stuff, I guess. So he had told me at one point that, him and my mom both, I don't know if that's how they met or what the whole story is there, but they both worked there. And when they implemented the whole state licensing thing, the guy was like license number 3 or something like that. So yeah. So he's been doing it a long time, but it started here when he was pretty young.
Right on.
And if I remember correctly, you were helping him as a kid, right? Here and there.
Yeah. At some point it crosses from like child labor to actual work.
Yeah, right.
But
right.
So I don't know when to really start counting when people ask me.
Yeah. Was it something that you were interested in as a kid and just kind of picked up on things? How did you get involved in it?
I didn't. So like every other kid, I don't know if you guys are the same, but I think most people are. The last thing you want to do is what your dad does.
Right.
Right. Like, so you go help them do something, but you get the bright idea when you're pretty young that you're going to go do something awesome. Right.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I was interested in it. I just did it always.
Right.
Like it was just something you did. I'm sure you guys knew how to, I don't know, work on guns at a much younger age than other kids would.
Me and Jared both grew up in a firehouse.
Yeah.
And now we're both firemen. But at one time, because our dad kind of branched off from the firehouse and he went to do business stuff, right? He runs hospitals or whatever. At one point when I graduated high school, I was like, oh, I'm going to go be a businessman. And I went to 1 year of Ohio State for business, and I was like, "This is terrible."
Yeah,
this sucks.
Because school is really not my thing. But so that's when I decided, hey, you know what? I know a lot about being a fireman, or not a lot about being a fireman, but I like the culture, I guess. So I was like, I'm gonna go be a fireman. So that's what I did. So I was kind of around it a lot, but I didn't know a lot about it, I guess. So.
Yeah, you're just there. I mean, it's something your dad does.
Yeah.
I remember being at your house when we were young and we'd be like eating grilled cheese or whatever. And the little, what do you call it? The little thingy on the table would just start making a particular beep boop situation and he just leaves.
Yeah. Pager radio. Yeah.
So, it was like that. I mean, he would get calls and I would go with him and hold the flashlight and do all that stuff. But I wasn't really working as a kid. But, by the time I had my license, like right when I got my license, I started running calls.
Okay.
But I think for my like 13th birthday or something, I got a sheet metal brick and I made sheet metal And that's how I paid for my first car. So I don't know if you guys were around when I had the really crappy red Camaro.
I remember the Camaro.
I remember the Camaro. Yeah.
And everything was broke on it.
Yeah.
And it used to be red. It was pink.
We took a couple laps in that thing.
Yeah. But yeah, that was sheet metal money. So
okay.
I did it pretty young, but yeah, I went to school kind of like you. I decided I was going to be an engineer, and maybe you're smarter than me. I don't know. Cause I stuck it out and I got a degree and I worked for a couple years in auto manufacturing and I hated it. It was terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. What didn't you like about it?
I'm a bad employee. Okay. So
is that why you're your own boss now?
Yeah. Well, everybody is my boss now, but there's a lot of politics involved in bigger businesses like that.
Sure.
And I would run into situations where I just wanted to go fix it. And there's a lot of paperwork. Like I'm not actually allowed to fix it. So I did process engineering and I would tell them how to lay out a process. And these are multi-billion-dollar companies. You can't just go decide to, this was like every gauge cluster that went in every Honda product. You can't just go be like, oh, you know what we're doing? Changing it all. They don't like that. So there's paperwork and you're not actually allowed to do it yourself.
Sure.
And it drove me nuts. So, the opportunity came, my dad had an injury to, help him for a year. And that was 9 years ago.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm not going back to that, but it's not that it's not useful.
Sure.
Cause you learn how that stuff works. But yeah, it just wasn't for me. But I think that's a lot of people, you end up.
Well, now you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I didn't want to do what my dad did. And then until I did something else and I found out,
you got your degree, right? You said he stuck it out.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I'm not going to say I didn't use it. A lot of people, I think, kind of hate on sending kids to college, especially people in the trades. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think you should get outside of the work you want to do and do something different and bring that into the work that you're doing.
Right.
I think engineers are one of the exceptions in that conversation, though. Like, unless you're going to be an engineer, a doctor, or a lawyer, don't go to college. But engineers usually in that cluster of things, the exceptions.
Yeah. I mean, you probably don't want a degree in
liberal
basket
arts.
weaving. You know what I mean? Like that's not going to do you much good. But
unless you're weaving baskets, I guess.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. But
yeah, get out. So you're saying get outside of the work that you're eventually going to do, just to see that the work that you're currently doing doesn't suck as bad as something else.
But not even that. Like a lot of people that I see be really successful in heating and air are people who a lot of them don't even like turn wrenches. They don't know how the machines work.
Right.
They're people who have some skill set, like in business or something that they acquired somewhere else.
Right.
And
they can run a business.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, oh, hey, I can do this in heating and air. I can do this in plumbing or any other trade because it's an industry that's kind of stuck in the past in a lot of ways. And if you're able to do something different, that can be really useful if you've got that skill set.
Sure. Right? Yeah, I get that.
So when were you like, okay, I'm going to do this? Like you helped your dad for a year. You eventually took it over and he's still a part of it. Am I right in that?
Yeah. Yeah. So he still works most of the time. If there's any situation, he's happy to be like, I don't know. It's not up to me. I have to call the office.
Right.
So a lot of people don't even know that he's not just a tech, but he still works. There's stuff that he really likes to do and he's better at it than anybody else. So that's what he does. And there's stuff that I'm a little bit more experienced with, I guess. So anything that involves a screen or the internet, that's my bailiwick and not his.
Technologically advanced things, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got that.
But yeah, he's definitely super involved. I mean, that's something I probably am not. I don't think about that much, but I mean, most people probably don't spend that much time with their family, but I work with my dad and my mom and my sister. I mean, every day. So,
right.
That's kind of the double whammy,
Is that challenging for you to work with your family?
It can be, especially when it's tough to draw a line for family events, like when there's birthdays or something and you get a call and it's an old lady and she's got an emergency, like somebody's got to go, we're all here.
Right.
So, it is tough to separate work and family stuff, but, as far as, we don't really get into fights and stuff like that. Like everybody's got their thing they're in charge of and that's the thing they do. And we don't really, get outside of that. So I see a lot of people like it becomes an issue, but
it's not like, what was that? West Coast Choppers, like Paul Sr. and Paul Jr. just going at it, throwing shit.
Yeah. I mean, it can be, but that's also, that's my dad's personality. So I don't know how well you guys know my dad, but he's like a grizzly bear with a heart of gold. Okay. So he's bad cop usually, and I'm usually good cop, but, that works. You got to have both of those characters,
Definitely. You got to have all facets of the, you just have to have everything.
Yeah.
From when you officially took over, how much have you guys expanded as far as like techs and operationally?
Yeah, that, I guess I'll take a step back. What my thing is, like what my degree was in and what I'm really interested in is the idea of like optimizing things. So, expanded it in terms of number of techs, 0. But revenue is like 4 times what it was.
Oh, hell yeah.
So profit is like 4 times what it was. And, a lot of that, I'm just more interested in that. I think a lot of places will throw more people at a problem. And that's why, I don't know if you guys have ever gotten quotes to have any contractor do any work at your house. It's crazy expensive and you usually don't get what you want. Like maybe you get the thing you want. Like you got a tile guy, maybe the tile looks good, right? But you probably didn't get it very fast.
Right.
And you probably called 20 contractors before one of them sent you a quote.
Right.
So, that's kind of what I'm more interested in is how much of your time can you spend doing something that the customers actually want you to do? And then how do you get rid of all the other stuff that you're doing?
Yeah.
So I guess to answer your question, we grew a lot, but in some regards we didn't grow at all. But that's kind of the point. So,
yeah. Did you, take up did you have an interest in learning and like business courses or anything, or did it just come easy? Like it made sense?
No, it's like, I think I have the opposite problem most people have because I worked for companies that already have it figured out.
Okay.
Like you don't go work at Honda and reinvent the wheel.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know, like a good career at Honda is like placing one brick in a really huge wall. Right. Like maybe it's a real cool brick, but you're just, that's the best you're going to do.
Yeah.
But then when you step into a company that doesn't have any of that in place,
right.
Like I know what the end should look like, but I don't have any idea how to get there. So none of it came easy and none of it is easy now, but I found like Facebook to be an amazing resource because there are people out there who, I mean, they're just playing a different game. Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, these are guys who are doing hundreds of millions of dollars a year. They have no business answering my questions. It's crazy. But there are Facebook groups that I've gotten into. I don't know why they let me in them, but I'll ask questions and they'll give you just an answer. And it's great. I mean, there's all these consultants that want to charge you for everything. I mean, it's in every field.
Right.
There's always some guy who wants to charge you for something. But I mean, if you just get into groups on Facebook, I guess is really all I've done. I get good answers from people who have no business giving me these answers, but they do. So yeah, none of it's easy. I've gotten to the point now where I ask a question. I kind of know the people who are giving good answers and I just do what they say.
Sure.
It's pretty basic. So,
Yeah.
So these aren't technically HVAC groups, or are they business groups, or what kind of, like, how did you narrow that down? Like, I need to ask these people these questions.
I don't even know how I got in it. This is an HVAC group. The 2 or 3 that I'm thinking of are almost all HVAC, plumbing, electric. They're home services groups.
Okay.
I don't really know what the motivation is on there. Some of the guys, I mean, some of them, it's obvious they have something to sell.
Right.
Other people, I think they just like giving back, and
Yeah.
Yeah,
I get that. I'm in a lot of Facebook groups as well. Like, a lot of them that don't even have to deal with each other, but there's a lot of good information if you can kind of peel back the BS, if you will. There's a lot of good information about a lot of things.
Oh yeah,
on there.
Yeah, I think one of the best things you can do is kind of use stuff like that to find better questions to ask.
Oh yeah,
You know what I mean?
sense.
So you're not, you don't usually get a good answer, but you do get better questions to go figure out. Like, there's stuff you don't even know that you don't know.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I get that.
The guy who worked on my house as a plumber, I was talking to him about social media and how he expanded and stuff. And he's like, dude, just Google is like 98% of his business. Is that something? Is Google like a huge one for you, or is it Facebook, or?
It's Google. So a lot of it's word of mouth.
Yeah.
I'm by no means an expert on this, so this is something I'm trying to figure out myself. But what has worked for us is to be like hyper local. So we'll do individual neighborhoods that we want to work in, and we'll do stuff like maybe we'll send out a mailer and one person calls, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then most people would be like, I lost my ass on this mailer. Well, not really, right? So you get the one person, but while you're there, if you can just say, hey, can I put a yard sign in your yard? And then you knock on, they call it the 6-pack, right? So the 2 houses next door and the 3 across the street. I never try to sell them anything, but if you just knock and say, hey, my name's Matt, we're going to be working across the street. And, if we're making too much noise, or, there's somebody in front of your driveway, this is my cell number, just call me. Here's my card. And I write my cell number on it. Well, now they got my card.
Right.
One of them calls.
Genius.
And you're like, hey, can I put a yard sign in your yard? And then you just 6-pack it again, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you do the whole neighborhood, and you just hit a neighborhood really hard. And we're small enough that works, and that's really cost effective. Now, if you were a huge company,
first interaction with you was, hey, this guy's looking out for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's and I am, right? I mean, that's the thing.
Well, yeah, not that you aren't, but in their mind, hey, this guy came to me and said, hey, if I have any problems, I'm going to call him.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. If you focus, like I said, it works for us to focus on like a city, and they'll reach a point where you're too big to do that, but we're not there yet. So, I'm kind of torn between saying that we're like marketing, but I'm not really marketing, but it's just the city that we live in. And, I've got 4 kids. They're in everything. They're in sports. And I mean, you meet everybody.
Right.
And, it really is a situation where if people know you and they like you, they will call you. And if you're doing what you're supposed to do, you answer the phone, you show up on time, you don't really need to advertise that much because the bar is so low. I mean, everybody in the world that has a pickup truck and some tools and wants beer money has decided that maybe they can install Windows now or whatever. Right. And then, and they don't do a good job. So, if you just do what you're supposed to do, that's where it's at right now. Maybe in the future it'll get harder, but it's not.
Right.
Yeah. The last plumber I called, the side of his truck said punctual plumber, and he was an hour late. Yeah. I'm like, this is a terrible business model if you're going to be an hour late.
And you paid him, and you were okay with that.
He gave me a discount, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing.
I had an hour to spare, but if I didn't, it'd be an issue.
And the other, on the other side of the fence, what are you going to do? Who else is going to come?
No,
you know what I mean?
5 other people, but
I don't know.
They would have been a lot later than he was.
Yeah,
It might have been the guy installing windows,
Yeah.
Who knows?
that's the thing that I struggle with is I've been, if not working in this industry, around it, like since I was born.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm like in the jar trying to read the label. So I don't really know what anybody really wants. And I'm not entirely convinced that even if you ask somebody that they even know what they want, because people be like, I want it done right, and I want it fast, and I want it cheap. And, but then like, if you run the numbers, like you're like, if I made this faster, do more people call? Probably not. You know what I mean? Like, so, well, I don't know that people even know what they want.
Yeah. I think the best thing about your job though, is you're not selling snake oil. Like people need heating and cooling, their furnace goes out in the middle of winter. You're not selling them something they don't need. Like they need heat.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like being a firefighter. That's
There's
a very easy to identify need.
Right. Yeah, they're always going to need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is tough. There are a lot of companies out there that make promises that maybe they can fulfill, but they're not, a lot of that's wasteful, I guess. You end up paying more money for something that you feel like you want, but you probably don't really want it that much. Like, are you willing to pay 3 times as much for something to be 2% better? Like, probably not.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, that's like, I run a heating and air business, but I view it as any other business where you just are a group of people doing something that somebody wants to pay you for.
Right.
And the company who figures out what that something is and does it better, faster, and cheaper, generally wins. So
that's the whole game, right?
Yeah, but it's like, what do people want? I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. I probably overthink it though.
Have you done local stuff, teamed up with local businesses or anything, or you just go out there and like just do the best you can? And
like, have you ever been on any other podcasts?
I've never been on a podcast. No. So, man, contractors are weird. So I have this pet theory. Okay. And I'm not excluding myself here, that every good contractor has ADD. Okay. So they're generally unreliable long-term. Like they get really excited about stuff for a few weeks and then they don't finish doing it. That seems to be the only reason I quit doing that, is you just put things around you that prevent it from happening. But yes, so we have teamed up with people and it's great for like a month.
Right.
And then you're like, hey dude, like you haven't asked me for any more flyers. It's been like 6 months. And they're like, just haven't been handing that many. Like, dude, I know how many calls you're running. You're not handing them out anymore.
Right.
So I've not found anything really reliable. I've thought about creating like a local contractor group. That kind of ties into what we were talking about, like getting with other business owners and letting other people, like our customers know who they are. Like people that I know are doing good work and they're good people.
Right.
And, just let other people know their story and what they do. So, but yeah, I mean, that's not been very successful. So.
Word.
So I'm assuming you enjoy what you do. What are some of the things that you enjoy about the job?
I don't really enjoy like fixing a furnace. Okay. I don't know that anybody does. I don't know that anybody's like, what I like doing is that hot attic that's full of raccoon poop. Right. I want to get in that.
Right.
Like that's nobody.
I was just in my attic the other day when it was like freaking hot. And I thought about you and I was like, how in the hell do they do this every day?
You just do it. But I mean, it's like, I'm sure you guys don't enjoy some of the stuff that you have to do.
Definitely.
But there's a bigger thing where like every now and then I had a lady the other day. I was just getting home from work and she pulled in the driveway and was like, hey, I just wanted to stop in and say thanks. And I knew who she was right away because like middle of summer, it's 100 degrees. She had COVID and was really struggling with it. Her husband had passed away, and she had dealing with all that. She didn't have the money to fix her air conditioner, but she like really needed it. So, you know, we're not one of these companies that goes and does like a good deed and gets the newspaper involved. Like we do stuff a lot, but nobody will ever know about it.
Right.
But, you know, she stopped, said, hey, thanks. And, you know, she was genuinely grateful that we helped her out. And, you know, that's the kind of stuff that's cool.
Right.
But I don't think there's much enjoyment in the work itself. It's more, you know, you're helping people out in the situation where they need something. And a lot of times people aren't that grateful about it. But sometimes they are, and that's pretty cool, you know?
Well, that's cool. I mean, and I think that's probably, I think it's cool because like me and Jared do fire and EMS, and granted, and no offense, like being a fireman is probably the best job in the world. But I think a lot of people do that because they get to help people and that satisfaction of you're making a difference, you know, whether it's, you know, helping that old lady or whatever, or doing things not for the recognition and even just under the radar, but it makes you feel better. It's that gratification of you are making a difference, even though you don't have to, but you're doing good for others. And I mean, that's one of the reasons that I do things. So it's kind of nice that, you know, you kind of do the same thing in a whole different line of work. You know, I think that's pretty cool.
Do you guys get the, like if you get a call, it's like, it's a soccer game or it's your kid's birthday and you get the call and you're like, damn it. Like I'm so tired of this. I don't want to do this, but then you go do it anyway. And when you're done, you're like, well, yeah, okay. You know,
yeah, I think since we're full time, it's like pre-scheduled letdowns. So like that part's already
right. Well,
like,
when they call for overtime, you're like,
yeah,
I guess so.
You know, so since we're not like volunteer anymore, like just go, then it's not like, oh, I was almost out the door. Sorry, babe.
But you know, you know, at least me, I'm like that for other things. Like if somebody if we have something scheduled and if somebody calls me and really needs something, I'm going to try, you know, to the best of my ability to do something. You know, not necessarily going on a call, but you know, if somebody needs help, I'm going to try to help them as best as I can. So,
yeah. Do you see, this is just the few limited interactions that I've seen. Do you have a lot of people like complaining to you guys? Like, oh, you were too slow or you're blocking up the road, or is that like just a normal occurrence?
Not all the time, but they're definitely out there. They're
usually people that were on the fire department.
Yeah.
Like 50 years ago.
Yeah. Like they know everything, or they watched, you know, Rescue 911 with William Shatner back in the day.
Yeah.
And they're just like, you know,
I would say
it's typically in traffic.
Yeah.
Like why are we stopped or whatever, you know, whatever it is.
I would say people are nice for the most part.
For the most part, people love the fire department.
Yeah.
People hate cops. I could never imagine being a cop right now because people just freaking hate them, you know?
Oh yeah.
How do you go to work and knowing that people are going to give you shit? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like if somebody gives me shit during, you know, my shift, whatever, but it's not going to be like, I don't go into my shift knowing that somebody's going to give me shit. You know what I mean? For the most part, people are very appreciative and, you know, thankful that you're doing what you're doing. So
yeah, that's got to be like the top of the cake there for public service, right? Like everybody loves a firefighter.
Well,
you get to wear the uniform.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like the whole shebang.
Big trucks, lights, sirens.
Right. Kids love me.
Kids love
I got a sticker badge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Give them little hats, little stickers, you know, coloring books.
It is pretty cool now that you mention it. It's pretty cool.
It's the best job in the world. You know, we work 2 days a week, you know. What more can you ask for?
I don't know. But I'm sure restoring some heat for a family on Christmas Eve is probably a pretty good feeling.
Yeah.
You know,
It feels less cool now, but yeah.
No, it's still pretty cool because I know I
didn't
can't.
mean to steal your thunder at all.
Is it on fire? No, but we're freezing cold. I can't help you.
Yeah, I can make it on fire. I'll be there right now. Yeah,
exactly. But I mean, that is a service that people need and appreciate, and I think that's awesome. So,
yeah. It's unfortunate that, particularly in Ohio, it's pretty easy to start an HVAC company, really any company, without any kind of certification or licensing. So, you see a lot of weird stuff go on in Ohio that you don't see in other states. But
why is that? Ohio's just lenient on who can put in a piece of equipment, or?
Yeah, there's, if you have a state license and let's say I come to your house and you say, hey, I don't want to pull permits on this. And I say, that's fine. We're not going to pull permits. And then we get caught. There's pretty significant penalties for that contractor. But let's say I don't have a license and the same situation happens. There's not a lot they can do about that.
You're just some guy who bought something that wanted to install it.
Yeah, basically, because there's no like mechanism for them to really enforce any kind of penalties on somebody that's on license.
Jail.
Yeah, they can't take your license away. You don't have a license.
Right. That's true.
They can't, there's not a lot they can do. Maybe fine you, but
it's not like they're going to take your license away.
That's 3 HVAC demerits. It's your permanent HVAC record that you don't have.
Right. We're going to shorten your refrigerant hose. Deal with that. Yeah, no, it's, some states don't operate that way, but yeah, you get a lot of kind of questionable characters that start a business and then they go out of business pretty quick.
Yeah.
It's a lot of states are that way though. But you see, I think it's a lot of coastal states that aren't, because they got like hurricane hunter dudes, come down and they just put all the stuff in. So I think they kind of put an end to that, but
yeah, that's something I wouldn't even think about.
We all know everything is expensive as crap right now.
Mm-hmm.
Has that affected your business at all? Supply chain, cost of materials. Has that really affected your business at all?
We've grown a lot, at least in the amount of work we can get done. It's affected every business, but you may have struck a nerve. Okay, I've got a bit of a bone to pick on this.
Go ahead.
Everybody, especially, supply houses, you go in, there's always the old guy. It's like, wait, I need to find a kid. I need to find somebody to work. Kids don't want to work.
Right.
They don't want to work for you. Right. How are you going to convince somebody that could go deliver packages?
Yeah.
That's not an easy job, but it's not like particularly dangerous or anything.
Yeah.
I would consider it to be, let's say, about the same difficulty with a little less skill. You could have somebody trained up to do that pretty quick. They can make a good money. They get a retirement. That's a good living. They can buy a house and they can feed their kids. You expect to pay somebody $20 an hour with no benefits to carry 600-pound stuff all day and also have all this technical knowledge that they have to stay on top of. So
right.
Yes, the cost of everything went up, particularly the cost of employing good employees. I think that's the biggest effect that you've seen. And there's not really that many people that already have the skills to hire. So the employment gap, that affects, I think, every industry. I know it affects public service.
Definitely.
I know it affects the trades, but I don't know that it really affects engineering and stuff. Like, and maybe that's the product of more people going to school and getting these degrees, but there's not as much demand for my engineering degree as there is for an HVAC tech.
Right.
But the problem is, I think it is harder to be an HVAC tech than it is to be an engineer, because you got to have basically the training level of a doctor. Maybe the stakes aren't as high, but you've got to have many years of experience a lot of technical knowledge and physical capability. Like you got to be able to get in the attic and you got to be able to carry this stuff.
Right.
And the pay is just not there.
Yeah. And you're talking about a tech on your end. You have to understand how to maintain a business on top of that.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, when you talk about the cost of everything going up, the biggest effect I see in the trades is you got to be able to pay people to deal with that. Like those knock-on effects that have happened elsewhere, like when they want to go buy a car or they want to buy a house. I mean, they have to be able to afford that stuff, and you're not going to be able to do that for $20 an hour anymore. That's not going to happen.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it's when you get quotes, they're going to be higher. And a big chunk of that is with companies that are reputable. You know, if they're hiring the best people around, they're making more money than a lot of lawyers. They're making more money than a lot of these, you know, the people that you think maybe you wish you went to school to be.
Right.
They're probably making more money. Right. A good plumber makes more money than a good lawyer. Okay.
Yeah, I've heard that.
It's just supply and demand. Right. So yeah, that affects us. It affects everybody though. But like I said, I don't know if that's any different for the trades than it is anywhere else though.
Have you guys had trouble finding good help or retaining employees?
First of all, we're not big. Okay.
Right.
So people that we hire, we know pretty well. It's not like I hire a dozen people.
Sure.
And fire 10 of them.
Right. You're not going through a temp agency or anything like that, right?
Yeah. I mean, so we've got a guy who has been with us since I was literally a baby. I think they may have babysat me. And he's excellent, right? I mean, they're probably one of the best techs around, and he's been with us for decades. You know, there's stuff we could, I wish we could pay better, and I wish we did have better benefits.
Right.
But there are other things you can do as a business owner to keep people to work in there.
Like pizza parties.
Like you could do. I've never done a pizza party. Thought about it. I have bought them beers.
That was a
That's
joke.
better.
That was a joke.
Yeah.
When I worked at the hospital, it was like, oh, we don't have any staff and patients are, you know, coming through the door left and right. Pizza party,
right?
You know, and then just envision that.
Yeah, that's an old trope now, but it's still it still happens.
Envision the what is that this Flex Seal tape over the big leak,
right?
Pizza party,
yeah. Except it works not as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, except there's still a humongous leak. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I wonder sometimes if maybe I'm not as good at management, because I think you should just treat people like you would like to be treated if you worked there.
That's a crazy concept.
Yeah. Isn't that weird? Like we've never been like, dude, you got to get those numbers up. That's never been a conversation.
Right.
Proud of those units.
If somebody's like, hey, I've got a thing tomorrow with my grandkids, we'll figure it out. Just go do it.
Right.
Yeah.
We've never had a situation where somebody takes advantage of that. We've never had a situation where somebody is like a no call, no show. It's never happened. We've never really had anybody be late. I don't really have a good answer as to why that is. Maybe we have been profoundly lucky.
Yeah.
But I think you've been really lucky. I mean, and honestly, that's good with the, you know, the kind of people that we're seeing in our industry now, and just in general, you know, the people that that you hear about, you know, the shit workers. I mean, it's terrible.
Maybe they just aren't. We have had people come work for a couple days and been like,
not for me.
Not for me.
That's
I
okay.
Get that.
That's all right.
I get that.
And I think it's because of Jerry Morland. Okay. Because this guy gets up at 4 a.m. Our first call we schedule at 6. He will be up at 4 and be out in front of their house at 5:30 prowling. Just waiting, pacing around. Right. If he sees movement, they're getting that door knocked early.
Don't be checking your curtains, son.
Right. People will frequently be like, can you give me a call ahead? And we're like, Jerry's on this one. I'll give you a call ahead right now. 6 a.m. in 1 second, he's knocking on your door. Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can't, how are you going to be late? The guy's, you know, he's in his early 60s.
Yeah.
You're going to be late? Right? I mean, he's never been late.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I distinctly remember this one guy. This was hilarious. It was like his first day. We go work on this house trailer and we pull the skirting off the bottom to crawl underneath. Right where you have to crawl, there's this dead cat covered in bugs, just melting. And the guy's like, I'm not crawling in there. And my dad shows up like 10 seconds later and he's like, hold on. He goes and gets a piece of cardboard and sticks it on top of the cat and just right across the cat, crawls back, does the job, crawls back out and puts the skirting on and leaves. He doesn't, you know, he's not even like, you know, he doesn't say anything to the guy.
Doesn't demoralize
But
the guy.
at the end of the day, the guy's like, ah, man, you know, I don't think I got what it takes to do that.
Yeah.
And he never came back. You know, so,
Washed him.
yeah. I mean, there's just, I don't know, maybe it's just like, I never think of culture in a company.
It's generational too.
Which is what we just go and we do the thing until it's done and then we leave. Like
Right.
it's not
Yeah.
like nobody's ever been like, you know, I got 20 seconds and I got my lunch break. Like we don't do that.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think about like your dad's generation. I can't see them being on a job and just being like, I can't do it. There's a cat under there. You know, they just do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. It's infectious, you know,
Right.
like maybe that goes back to the attic thing. Like
Yeah.
there's almost a bit of pride
Definitely.
when you're the
Right.
last guy in the attic.
Definitely.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's the same thing with the fire service.
First in, last out.
You know, you go in and you try to work better or harder than the guy.
And you show up filthy and the other guy isn't, then it's
Yeah.
a little bit of,
Yeah. Rub a little dirt.
Yeah.
Rub a little dirt on the face.
yeah.
And then get out of the attic and be like, that's Thursday. You know what I mean? Does anyone have a Gatorade?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so, I don't think we really have the, I could see it becoming an issue finding people if we needed that kind of volume.
Yeah. If you had a dozen trucks.
Yeah. I
kind
mean,
of
you're
thing.
going to have turnover. We had a guy recently who, I'll put big air quotes on this, who quit, but I don't even really consider it quitting. Like this is a guy who always was a go-getter. And I mean, he would be out buying his own tools and he's got everything is his own. And, you know, we hand him a credit card when they start. I'm like, if you need something, go buy it. We're never going to ask about it. But he bought his own stuff, which is just the biggest red flag ever that he's going to start his own company.
Right.
So
right.
it's like no mystery.
Right.
And, you know, there's no hard feelings there. Like he did what he was supposed to do the whole time, never complained. The guy was never late.
Right.
I hardly consider that quitting. You know, he's got kids.
Right.
He's got the ability and the, you know, the attitude to go do his own thing. There's nothing wrong with doing that. So
Right.
it's not like he quit and went to work for a competitor.
Right.
That he was a competitor to begin with. He just needed some training. And there's nothing wrong with that. So
Right.
yeah, I mean,
And I get that, you know, but he owes a lot of that to you guys though, too.
yeah, maybe,
You know.
maybe not. I mean, he was in the Navy. I guess he got some of the technical skill,
Yeah.
but it's easy to like answer the phone one time in the middle of the night, but to answer the phone every time in the middle of the night, you're not going to train somebody to do that. That's the kind of person that does it. So yeah, we don't hold anything against anybody that does something like that, but
I get that. So, so what are your goals? Like, status quo? I mean, I think I would assume that you guys are not like scraping for work, you know. I mean, you guys are predominantly pretty busy, you know. Do you have plans to expand the company? Do you have, I mean, are you good where you're at? Like, where do you see Morland Heating and Air in 10 years?
that's a loaded question.
To the moon.
There's, in probably most industries, there's a handful of things that are rapidly changing. And a lot of it revolves around, I mean, you hear it everywhere, AI, right? So Google, a lot of big tech companies have found very creative ways to insert themselves in between you as a customer and me as a contractor. And it's becoming increasingly difficult to actually have a customer that's going to call you again. They go to Google first, but if the Google doesn't show you, they don't call you, they call somebody else. And all they really care about is how much money they can get out of that lead. And they're getting really good at it. So
technocracy.
The cost to actually acquire a customer has skyrocketed. Beyond that, you've got AI, and there's some new technology coming out that allows just like some simple sensors to be put into a furnace to tell that it's going to break before it actually breaks.
Okay.
Which sounds cool until you think about who owns that data.
Yeah.
Because it's not your contractor.
Right.
It's the company that maintains that service and provides the sensor.
Right.
And if you stop paying them the subscription fee, what's to stop them from sending that information to somebody else?
Right.
Yeah.
I don't see it ending well for most contractors. Okay. There's most likely to be a few really big players. There's most likely to be a few like Amazons of HVAC that own a stake in or are deeply intertwined with these AI companies. So to answer your question, I think it really depends. 10 years is kind of like the magic number, I think, where your traditional contractor doesn't exist anymore. I think it's one of those situations where if you can't beat them, you join them. So
I think it's going to be like when Amazon tells you you're almost out of shaving cream. Do you want me to order you more? Like your furnace is about to go out. Do you want me to send a Amazon crew over to fix that?
It's not going to be. It is right now.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
That's scary.
That exists.
Wow.
You can buy into it as a contractor. And I looked at it, and a lot of people are super excited about it. And I am simultaneously super excited about the capability of that and what that could mean for the customer.
Like humanity. But
Well, I mean, like nobody wants to come home and find out your pipes froze.
yeah.
Right.
Like that sucks. But from a business owner perspective, I mean, what do? You don't own the data.
Right.
You have to find some pretty creative ways to tie a customer to you and cut out the intermediaries. And there's really not a great way to do that. So I'm kind of thinking most contractors don't exist in the current state they're in 10 years. So to answer your question, I think in 10 years, we are either deeply invested with an AI company and have some contracts in there, and we're significantly larger than we are right now. Or in about 5 years, we're big enough that we can get involved with like conglomerations of companies or private equity groups that are already involved with those companies, because that's really the only way the future ends up good for a contractor.
Right.
So it's, I don't think that's much different for many different industries.
Right.
I don't think people realize, unless you've taken a lot of math, what exponential growth looks like. Like human beings are not good at thinking about how that looks. So things like that, if they continue at the rate they are, that are using AI to predict things, are going to get better quicker than you think they're going to get better. And, heating and air is no different. It kind of infects all aspects of life.
Yeah.
So that's the $1 million question, Tim. I don't know. It's kind of a race to get as big as we can get without compromising the things that we're really all about.
Sure.
And then keep an eye on it, a really close eye on it. And when the time comes, run, either get in with the right people or get out.
Yeah.
Right.
But how many companies like you have no pulse on any of this that are just like, we're going to do this to the end of time?
Almost all of them.
Yeah.
And that's something that I see a lot it's pretty sad, really. You have an entire generation of mostly baby boomers that's, they were working for somebody and they didn't like them, or they didn't like what they did. And they thought, yeah, I'm going to go start my own company.
Right.
And they run a good company, and you call them because they do good work and they're cheap and they're always on time. Why wouldn't you call them?
Yeah.
Well, they're structured that way because they didn't know what they didn't know.
Yeah.
And now they're looking at being 65. They have no retirement, and they think, well, I'm going to sell my company. It's worth a boatload of money. I bill $1 million a year. Yeah. It's worth nothing because nobody wants to buy your job. And when you quit showing up for work, that company doesn't exist. Yeah. That's your job. And it's the worst job in the world because they're going to call you all the time, and it doesn't continue to run when you're gone. So the companies aren't worth anything. Yeah. And there's a lot of people that are trying to sell their companies right now, and nobody wants to buy them.
Yeah.
So I would say most of them, most people, they just don't think that far ahead. If you're a tradesman, that's not, those two ways of thinking, they don't coincide with one another.
I see the guys that, like your counterparts, that are probably like all these kids on their TikTok. All I'm going to do is keep showing up on time and putting units in, and then
there's a limit.
It's going to run out eventually.
But yeah, like you can pick anything.
Right.
If all you can do is do more of it yourself, there's only one you.
Exactly.
If you don't have a system there to have more use, and if you can't take a vacation, you don't have a business.
Yeah.
And
it's a good way to look at it.
Nobody wants to buy that. Would you buy that? If I said, hey, I'll sell you Morland Heating and Air right now. You don't know how to run a heating and air business.
To do it.
Yeah. Then you got to learn how to fix furnaces. You don't know how to fix furnaces.
Right.
But if I say I'll sell you Morland Heating and Air right now, and it just works, you don't even have to show up to work.
It's not like you own vending machines that just pop out money. You actually have to show up.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's really no company quite like that, but it's really unfortunate because it is most companies that you see out in the wild right now, especially if they're owned by older guys. But they think they're sitting on their nest egg, and they're not. Mm-hmm. They're, no retirement.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But that's, that's good that you're forward thinking, and, kudos to you.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe you're wrong.
I doubt it.
Maybe you're wrong. But
maybe I'm an idiot. That's a possibility.
This is why I keep watching Terminator constantly.
Why is that?
You looking for Sarah Connor?
No.
I'm trying to predict the future.
That already went live. That's something probably not a lot of people have thought about. Just something like people, including me, don't think about the automation basically of everything. Including
it's
tech
a whole
jobs.
other facet of thinking.
And the selling of data is a whole different rabbit hole you could go down, but
it's wild. Because in the first part of this podcast, we just talked about, just like firefighting, there's always going to be a need for heating and air, right? But then he just blew off another whole facet of, hey, you're always going to need heating and air, but, Amazon's going to tell you and fix it for you. You know what I mean? There you go.
It's most industries. If you look at large.
You could relate it to a lot of different things,
I have a, this is completely off topic and I'm derailing the conversation.
Go ahead.
I'm very interested in, public service. Okay. Because I know some guys, I wouldn't say I'm great friends with them, but I know them pretty well. And they seem to be, interested in I don't know what to call it. They're attracted to the brotherhood of it, I guess.
Okay.
The culture of it.
And culture. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that's is that the thing? Is that
yeah.
That attracts people?
Yeah. A lot of them are former military.
Yeah.
And
That's it.
And we talked about that on our St. Patty's Day podcast.
okay.
Like, people get out of the military, and then, like, on your last day, that's it. It's over, right? And they're always searching for.
And my theory is that they join the military to find that in the first place. And then it's just a vicious cycle where they're like, yeah, this sucks. It's really not worth it. And then they get out, they're like, okay, I kind of want to get back into that again. And then
definitely. It's definitely something that a lot of people might strive for, but don't actually achieve. At least
it's kind of hard to explain to a lot of people because you're like, so explain it to me. Like, well, I like to just hang out with a bunch of dudes and like, and do what? And you're like,
we hang out.
You don't really get it,
but
like, why does that make you so happy?
It's like, more than just hanging out. It's sharing these crazy experiences that you'll, as a normal person, will never experience. Hopefully, never experience. But you experience those things. Not every day. We don't get pumped up every day. For the lady that falls. But like on those crazy calls, and you're there with your dudes, and you're making a difference, and you're all there working, like, and then you come back and you're still living off that dopamine. You know what I mean? That's it. And it's not just the high intensity scenes and whatnot, but it's being with each other. It's living with each other. You're basically family at that point, but it's a different type of family. I can't joke with Jared. I'm sorry. I can't joke with my wife about things that I would joke to Jared.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Or anybody else I work with. It's just, it's different. It's a whole different lifestyle.
Do you think that it's like you're just doing hard stuff, like with these?
It could be. And I've never, like I've said before, I've never really had a real job. So I don't really know what it's like to do a 9 to 5, with other people. I'm sure maybe some of that stuff is true, but when you come back to the station and you live with these people, you're up with them at 2 a.m. And you have the same experiences and you live together every third day. It's
also a crapshoot though, because you could be looking for that and then fall into a place with total dirt bags where you're just not going to find it at some places.
You could,
you got to be a part of making that for somebody else instead of just everybody expecting it to just like, where's that camaraderie I was looking for?
Yeah, you could be working with a bunch of dirt bags, like Jared said.
Yeah. Like any place,
There's some places that are hiring people that are just total dirt bags, The
boomers did a really good job at filtering people, like they would haze the crap out of them, and then if they could withstand that, they're good to go.
Yeah.
And I think since we did away with the hazing, that there's no like more filters.
So like hazing.
I support it 100%.
I think there's a line. I think there is a time for hazing.
Yeah, if you like,
some people might have crossed the line.
If you clearly define hazing, because there's a reason there's a different word. It's not like assault or
right.
Hazing's supposed to be a certain thing where you're not actually hitting people or pissing on them.
Yeah, you're giving people a hard time or whatever.
Yeah. Unless that's what they like, Jared.
Yeah, that's fine. That's totally fine.
You don't have to judge people like that.
Yeah, that's that.
I get that, but it's almost like a rite of passage too. If you're the new guy, you take the shit. Yeah.
Well, I think if the person wants to be part of that like ritual thing, then it's not. Why not? You know what I mean? But if they don't, then it's probably not very cool. But
I get that. But why does that intrigue you? Like just because you're curious about it, or?
Not that I want to get terribly far down the rabbit hole because I'm not particularly advanced in this thing. But a lot of the guys I do jujitsu with are in public service, and they're just different. Like they just act different.
Like
they compete different. A lot of them, especially the police, act a lot more serious about it.
Yeah.
Like, which is understandable. But even the firefighters are just like they're not just there for the workout. I don't think like they're there because I mean, it's another thing you're doing that's it's weird and it's difficult and it's you're consistently doing this thing with the same few people every day. And like they seem like people that are really drawn to that. And all of them are really interesting people. I mean, some people show up and you're like, that's just another
So
dude.
do you get that out of jiu-jitsu, the camaraderie of
maybe
choking each other, like being on the verge of?
I don't think it's that. I think it's the, I think it's
like, I'm not saying it's a kink or anything.
It could be, Jared.
Yeah.
For me, it's like I come home and I'm dad and I got to tell you got to tell your kids what to do the thing. Like you got to be the dad or you go to work and now you got to deal with all the problems and you're the guy in charge or whatever. But like, it's a pretty cool thing to go somewhere and just suck at it and be like the worst person there. And you don't have to know anything at all. And you're not supposed to know anything at all. And you just get the reality of it is, especially if you're me, I'm older. At the time I did it, I was nearly 100 pounds heavier than I am right now. I sucked and I still suck, but I sucked real bad then. And I just got beat up for like 2 years. Bad. I broke a rib. Like I got beat up every day that I went in.
Yeah. You broke a rib for real?
Yeah.
Okay.
And one day a new guy shows up and you get him right. And you get him good.
Right.
Oh, that's a good feeling. Yeah. But yeah, it is, but it's the same people every day and you show up at the same time every day and everybody, you just get a little better at something that most people don't ever do. I don't even think it has to be a martial art. I think martial arts is a good way to do it, but I think everybody probably has something that would be really good for them to go, get out of your comfort zone and go do something different. Yeah.
Showing to everybody else that you're actually not good at it. Just like being exposed, that's the thing. Like I suck, teach me. And, like to your question about the camaraderie thing, it's like if you go to jiu-jitsu and everybody there acts like they don't want to be there, then you're getting nothing out of it. So, every situation is different. So when people say, should I get in the fire service for the camaraderie? It's like, I hope you luck out and people want to be there, but.
And I hope you're a good fireman too.
Yeah. That too.
Yeah.
Don't be a fireman just because you want to hang out with your buds.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I just noticed it's disproportionate, the number of like firefighters that end up training. Yeah. And I sometimes wonder why that is. That's kind of my hunch.
Yeah. I wonder if it's one of those things where it's like, well, they're already comfortable, being vulnerable. So it's one of those things where I'll try something new, but a lot of people, they're like, well, people might see I suck, so I'm not even going to try.
I think especially as you get older, it's fine to just suck. I don't mind. I don't mind.
And you
being
understand that like nobody's good at everything right away.
And Matt, what do you mean by disproportionate? Like between like firemen and cops or what?
Just public service people.
Yeah. Like if you went into I bet if you went into, I guess I've only been in like 2 gyms. So
it's 2 more than I've been in. Yeah.
The bulk of them will be public servants of some kind, police, firefighters, military.
Okay.
Or engineers.
Interesting.
And that's most of them. I mean, like
there you
I
are.
bet 8 out of 10, maybe 9 out of 10.
Really?
Do you have like an engineer caucus going on in there?
Well, I think it's something you can really nerd out about. You can do some weird stuff.
I get that.
You can beat somebody with brawn which is,
The preferred.
I'm gonna be honest, that's probably the way to go. That's not the way I go. I just don't have it. Or you can try to like trick them. You know what I mean? Like get them with something sneaky.
Yeah.
That's the way I go. Not recommended. But you know, you gotta play your strengths. You know what I mean?
That you got. Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, a lot of those guys are just really, they're all interesting people. And the ones that are really interesting that I just don't get, they're like all firefighters and police officers. And I don't
get them either.
They compete harder. Like they generally, they're the ones that beat you up a little more sometimes, right. but they're nice about it. So
definitely. Well, and even like when we're at work, you're always, not if you're consciously doing it, but you're always trying to compete to be better than the rest of the people there. You know what I mean? Or at least show that you're worth something, you know, not necessarily that you're trying to be the best, but you want to show your worth.
Because but in that environment, the public wins.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. You know, if everybody's trying their best, then, you know, then the public wins.
It's a win-win.
Yeah.
I mean, is there a culture of like, if somebody's not, like if somebody just don't got it, do they just get run off? I mean, is that?
I think you see less and less of it.
You see less and less because, like Jared was talking about hazing, you know, so typically everybody has a probationary period of a year. And, you know, I think a lot more people back in the day didn't make probation because, you know, off the record, you made them quit, you know? I think.
Well, you had a much bigger pool.
Yeah, you definitely had a much bigger pool now. Now we're scraping for people.
Now they're like, why'd you make him quit? We don't have anybody else to hire.
You know?
Right.
Because I think feelings get in the way now. And now that we can't find firemen or cops, I'm guessing cops have the same problem that we do. Finding people.
But, I hear they do.
But, you know, I think it's just that. And, you know, you have to be nice to people now, and people have feelings, and, you know, people make probation, and people end up doing the job when they probably weren't cut out for it, you know.
I can't remember
at that point, the public and, you know,
I can't remember the Ohio stats, but like after, like right in the middle and right after COVID, for people that took their national registry for EMT and medic was so low. It was like, I don't want to say the number because I don't want to be wrong, but it was stupid low because people are like, yeah, I'm not. Yeah, because 90% of what we do, 90% of what we do is EMS, and they're just like, nah, no, I don't think so.
Right.
And the same for cops. I mean, I don't blame anybody for being, because I was the same way. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll go get my Opata, you know, that'd be cool. And then I saw like the way they get treated, and I'm like,
yeah, he wants to be a freaking cop anymore, dude.
Yeah, I don't think it's a job I would want to do. Or I probably wouldn't want to be a firefighter either. That's
you like helping old ladies? We just pick them up off the ground and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
We go. You might want to call your HVAC guy because your shit's broke.
Right. You got carbon monoxide in here. You gotta air it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we get a few of those.
Oh, that's awesome. So, anything you wanna say closing up? I mean,
yeah, people want to look you up. Where do they go? Where
do we find you?
Well, you can find the company page at morlandhvac.com. It's MORLAND.
I'll put a link down below.
Personal stuff. I mean, I'm on Facebook a little bit, but I don't really do social media. And you don't want to be on my TikTok. You don't want it. Yeah, I don't. Like I said, I'm really not doing this for, views or anything like
clout.
That. So yeah, not into clout.
Not chasing that clout.
No. So, if you want to find me, go to Facebook, I suppose, but there's not much there either.
I'll put the link down if people want to check it out.
Link you up.
We'll see pictures of my kids. That's about it.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, man, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you.
All right, later, guys.
Later.